I can still hear the sound of his hand meeting my cheek. It wasn't loud, it was sharp, cold, final. I stood there in our living room, stunned, my face burning, tears already filling my eyes. And right behind him, sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed, was my mother-in-law. She didn't look shocked. She didn't gasp. She smirked. That small, satisfied smirk that said everything without saying a word. My name is Sophia Reynolds. For 12 years, I had been married to Michael. We had built a home, raised a beautiful son named Ethan, and I thought we had created a life together. I had given up my own dreams, supported his career, cared for his mother when she moved in with us, and tried to be the perfect wife and daughter-in-law. But that evening, everything I believed about my marriage shattered in one moment. It started as an argument about money. Michael had been spending more and more on his business trips and new clothes while I stretched our budget to cover household bills. When I calmly asked him to be more mindful, his face turned red with anger. "You think you can talk to me like that?" he shouted. "After everything I've done for you." Then it happened, the slap, hard enough to turn my head. And his mother, she smirked, as if she had been waiting for this day, as if I finally got what I deserved. I looked at both of them, the two people who were supposed to be my family, and felt something deep inside me break. But what I didn't know in that painful moment was that our 15-year-old son, Ethan, had seen everything from the hallway. And that single moment would eventually change all of our lives forever. The days after the slap were some of the darkest I had ever lived through. Michael never apologized. Instead, he acted like nothing happened. He would come home from work, eat dinner, and talk to his mother about his day while completely ignoring me. His mother, Margaret, became even bolder. She would make comments like, "Some women just don't know how to respect their husbands," or, "In my time, wives knew their place." I felt invisible, broken, humiliated in my own home. I tried to talk to Michael privately. "How could you do that in front of your mother? How could you put your hands on me?" He looked at me with cold eyes and said, "You pushed me too far, Sophia. Maybe if you were a better wife, I wouldn't have to correct you." Would smile sweetly whenever she overheard these conversations. Her presence made everything worse. She had moved in 3 years earlier after her husband passed away, and over time she had slowly turned my home into her territory. She criticized my cooking, my parenting, my appearance, and Michael always took her side. Our son Ethan became quieter. He spent more time in his room. I thought he was just being a typical teenager, but he had been carrying the image of his father slapping me. He saw his grandmother's smirk, and it was changing him. I felt trapped. I had no close family nearby. Most of my friends had drifted away over the years because Michael didn't like them. I started sleeping in Ethan's old room some nights just to feel safe. The emotional pain was constant, a heavy weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. But slowly, something inside me began to shift. I started keeping a private journal. I wrote down every hurtful word, every dismissal, every time I was made to feel small. I started noticing how Margaret controlled the household finances and how Michael gave her whatever she wanted. I realized this wasn't just one slap. It was years of emotional erosion. One afternoon, while Michael and Margaret were out, Ethan came to me. My tall, gentle boy looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Mom, I saw what Dad did that night. I've seen how they treat you. You don't deserve this." His words broke me and healed me at the same time. For the first time in years, I felt seen. We started talking more openly. Ethan told me he had been recording some of the cruel conversations on his phone, not to hurt anyone, but because he wanted proof that I wasn't imagining things. That was the turning point. I stopped begging for respect. I started planning quietly. I spoke to a counselor. I updated my resume after years of being a stay-at-home mom. And most importantly, I began rebuilding my inner strength. The betrayal ran deep. The man I loved had chosen his mother's approval over my dignity. His mother had enjoyed watching me suffer. But our son, our quiet, observant son, was about to show both of them that the next generation would not continue this cycle. The climax came during Margaret's 65th birthday dinner. Michael had planned a big family gathering at our house. Relatives, friends, and neighbors were invited. Margaret was dressed elegantly, playing the role of the respected matriarch. Michael was proudly standing beside her, laughing and telling stories about how well he took care of his family. I had prepared the dinner as usual, but this time I felt different. Calm, resolved. Halfway through the evening, while everyone was seated at the long dining table, Ethan stood up. My heart raced. I had no idea what he had planned. He cleared his throat and spoke in a steady, clear voice. "I want to say something about our family." The room grew quiet. Michael looked annoyed. Margaret smiled expectantly, thinking it was going to be a tribute to her. Ethan continued, "For years, I've watched my father disrespect my mother. I watched him slap her while Grandma smiled. I've heard the cruel words said behind closed doors. I recorded some of them because I couldn't believe what was happening in my own home." He played a short audio clip on his phone. It was Margaret's voice clearly saying, "She needs to learn her place. A good slap reminds them who's in charge." Gasps filled the room. Relatives looked shocked. Michael's face turned pale. Margaret's smirk finally disappeared. Ethan looked at his father and grandmother with calm strength. "Has done everything for this family. She deserves love and respect, not humiliation. I love you both, but I won't stay silent anymore. If this behavior continues, I will choose to live with Mom somewhere else." The room erupted in whispers. Michael tried to speak, but his words stumbled. For the first time, he looked small, exposed. Margaret sat frozen, her face red with embarrassment. That night marked the beginning of real change. Michael was forced to confront the truth in front of everyone he cared about. His perfect image was cracked. Over the following weeks, several family members reached out to me privately, offering support. Some admitted they had noticed the tension but didn't know how bad it was. Michael eventually apologized, not perfectly, but sincerely. He started attending counseling with me. Margaret moved out to live with her sister 2 months later. The power dynamic in our home slowly began to shift. I didn't seek destruction. I sought truth. And thanks to our son's courage, the truth finally came to light. Today, our marriage is healing. It's not perfect, but it's honest. I have regained my voice and my confidence. Ethan has grown into a young man. I am incredibly proud of someone who knows that protecting the people you love sometimes means speaking up even when it's difficult. If there's one thing I want you to remember from my story, it's this. No one has the right to break your spirit. Not your husband, not your mother-in-law, not anyone. When you feel humiliated and alone, know that your pain is seen, especially by the quiet eyes of those who love you most. Sometimes justice doesn't come from grand revenge. It comes from a child's courage. It comes from choosing truth over silence. It comes from refusing to accept disrespect as love. I no longer carry the shame of that slap. Instead, I carry pride in the woman I became because of it. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have ever been humiliated in your own home by the people who were supposed to love you, know that you are stronger than you think. Your worth is not defined by their cruelty. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts below. Have you ever seen a child stand up for a parent? How did it change your family? Protect your peace. Value yourself. And never let anyone's smirk dim your light. This is Sophia, signing off with a healing heart.